Happy Hump Day, and it is the final day of January, which means nothing. It's pretty insignificant, really. Just the end of another month.
It means patch 8.2 is almost here for us, finally.
Finally. So that'll be some changes heading on to the LCS this weekend that we'll get to in a bit. I'm Eric Kummel with Mark Horner, by the way, on 5v5 Live, Shot Callers Esports. Make sure you're sending your questions throughout the next hour because we will be getting to them later on, but we got to start with the action that's already underway in week 3, and that is the LCK. You had the King's Own Dragons taking on the Rox Tigers earlier this morning, and Khan put on a show. He absolutely destroyed the Tigers on a couple different champions. First, it was the Gangplank, where he got oh so close to a Penta.
So close. Will he get a Penta? I don't know. Khan's a pretty good player. I don't know. Can he really get himself in position to get another chance at a Penta? Well, he probably can. He's Khan.
Yeah, I mean, this one, listen, come on, Rox. You got to just give him the Penta here. They abuse the base gate, whatever it's called, to get out of the base, but then Peanut has to steal the kill.
See, that's bad manners. BM on Peanut. I'm reporting Peanut right now for this one. Stealing the Penta kill. Not good. And now here we get to see it. The Riven action doing the things here. Even gets to finish off the kill on Rengar after using the stopwatch. Says it was a mistake.
That was BM.
I think he's just proven himself here for sure.
So yeah, he's playing the Riven in the second game. Not something you're used to seeing. It's been a couple years since anyone's played the Riven. And here's a shot at Redemption.
Oh my God.
He absolutely deletes 3 guys instantly. And this is it. This time he's going to go for the Penta. He gets a Penta and a Quadra kill in back-to-back games. In case you didn't get it, King's Own demolished the Rox Tigers in 2 games.
Yeah, if this looks unfamiliar to you, this is what it looks like when the Riven's playing on the other team, not your team. Whenever Riven's on the other team, Penta kills. Your team feeding. So this time, Khan getting the Penta kill, doing great work for King's Own. They looked really strong getting the win in this one.
Yeah, the Riven you get on your team is the one who uses the stopwatch. Yeah. Like you did on the engage, and then they just die.
Even thinking about it, like watching him play Riven like that, you know, you're thinking, oh, what about all those Riven kind of one tricks, like box and stuff like that? And it's like, yeah, but this guy is this
play
good
any champion
on anything. It's crazy. Yeah. So to see that type of performance from Riven was a real treat and just absolutely spectacular stuff from Khan.
Yeah, and King's Own in general, again, they look super solid. And going back to that very first series of the split where they got dropped pretty handily 2-0 to KSV, ever since then, they've looked like one of the most dominant teams in the LCK.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was actually game 1 or game 2, but Prey had the 4th most damage on the team, which is like coming from the bot lane.
It's crazy.
That's crazy to think of, you know, everyone else doing more damage. Peanut looked fantastic in this one. He was really getting his synergy going as far as placing the vision that King's Own needed into the enemy jungle, as well as picking up those bloodthirsty kills on the Kazakhs, excuse me.
Yeah, he's starting to fit pretty well on this squad, and boy, that top half of the LCK is looking pretty terrifying to go up against. And SKT, they got a long way to climb. They're 9th right now at 1-3, and that's a long journey ahead.
Well, you're seeing the guys that are actually had left SKT with Peanut and Huni in North America are finding incredible success after their time on SKT, working with Kummel and picking up what they can as far as Faker's excellent work ethic and everything like that. And they've really shown it to be an improvement on their own skills and things that they've brought into their new teams. And now when you're looking at SKT and who they're left with, you have Faker, who's obviously, best player in the world, best mid laner, and then everyone else is more or less kind of the 4th, maybe 5th best player at their own position in the LCK, and that's just not going to be good enough for them to capture the spring title there.
Yeah, and one more note on Khan here. This guy has already missed a couple weeks. He was suspended the first week. He doesn't... He subbed out some games for Rascal, and then immediately he comes back in and completely dominates.
Yeah, and every time that he comes in to play instead of Rascal, it's a real treat. He is totally at the top of his game right now, and it is absolute perfection to watch.
Yeah, must-see games whenever he's on there. You alluded to patch 8.2. LCK not on it yet in this week, but the LCS will be this weekend, and some of the big changes coming in that are going to hopefully maybe affect the game. You're looking at guys like Nunu. Is he going to be must-pick, must-ban going forward? They already hot-fixed the magic damage on his Qs.
To still a 55.5% win rate on Nunu. It's far too much.
Yeah, I mean, you see the Ezreal nerf. Jinx, those changes are something that I'm actually somewhat interested in. They're changing the base attack speed that she's going to get. It gets quicker. It doesn't go with levels. It's just when you level up the ability, not Jinx's actual levels.
Right, and from my understanding completely, it's just going to make Jinx an even more dangerous threat in these team fights, where if she picks up that first kill here, she can really get hyper and get going off, picking off the rest of the team. So that's going to be something to watch for in the bot lane as far as the changes that we're also seeing. We're seeing tons of things happening with this patch. I think this one's really going to refresh kind of what we're seeing as far as certain roles, but then, you know, thinking about the mid lane, things are probably going to stay fairly similar. You might swap out, you know, Malzahar seeing more play as opposed to Azir. Azir might be banned more like how Malzahar was. Things like that changing through. But other than that, I think we're going to see some good changes with the 8.2 patch.
Yeah, are those Malzahar nerfs enough to actually take him out of the rotation? I mean, they nerfed the damage on his Q.
I wish they were enough. I don't think they are enough. He's too simple for the amount of effectiveness that this champion can absolutely have.
The cooldown on his ult is big, though, yeah. I think. It might be enough to take him at least down a peg in terms of rotation. I think someone like Veigar, who we've already seen some pick across all regions, I think he might get escalated to that next level. That stun takes up an entire screen when you land it there.
It's pretty nasty. And when you get caught in it, I know from my own experience being stupid and getting caught in it, it's dead. You just tell the rest of your teammates, don't worry about me, I'm gone. I'll see you after the gray screen simulator, I'm out of here.
But they follow and they die as well.
Sadly, yes, because they're also Bronze 5 teammates.
That's right. And the big change is, of course, Sightstone being removed and being added as a quest upgrade to all these support items. I'm expecting, maybe not right away, but as this change develops a little more, I'm expecting a lot more non-support players to be picking up that item just for the extra vision. We're already seeing an emphasis on vision more so in Season 8 than we did in Season 7.
Absolutely, for the vision they'll be picking it up, but I think you will see people, certain champions stop picking it up for the added gold benefit that you would be getting from these type of items. But yeah, absolutely for the added vision and how important vision is at the pro level, you will be seeing this picked up by more people.
So yeah, that's an interesting one. And we'll see how not many champions are going to be affected by the minion aggro changes in lane phase. I mean, Cassiopeia is already a pick that's fallen off a little bit early on in the season. You've seen guys like Phoenix played a little bit, but I don't expect that to be a highly contested pick.
I don't think it'll be a highly contested one, but one that we can possibly see in here and that you can definitely match into the team compositions that are popular in the champion compositions that are popular in the other lanes that you could be picking with a Cassiopeia, and especially with, you know, some nerfs coming to Rise and things like that, might see her as a better option in the mid lane. And
Vayne nerfs and Relic Shield nerfs for ranged characters.
Makes me happy.
Wow, maybe bottom lane will be interesting again. One can dream.
This will be exciting, and especially because in the sense of when you get rid of Relic Shield, for me, what really is exciting that you get to bring back more of these poke champions or poke supports into the meta now. That now when you're dealing this damage in the bot lane and trading, that damage is actually going to stick. So it's actually going to matter now. You're not just going to have a Relic Shield to take it away and just go right back to your lane phase. No problem. Relic Shield's gone. Can't do that. Damage is going to stick now, so you got to be more careful.
Bring out the Brand and the Zyras in the bottom lane.
Oh, no.
Rush the Soul Stealer. Go full AP.
No.
Most damage in the game. That's what we're ready for.
I want to see a Misfortune Lulu bot lane. Bring me back to that poke.
Lulu, please no. No more Lulu. I got enough of that with the Ardent Sensor meta. Week 3 of the LCS, so there's not as many hype matchups maybe as you saw in week 2, but there are still some very intriguing ones to check out. Let's start with some of the big matches in EU. It starts off with H2K Unicorns, which isn't exactly screaming hype to me.
Yeah, you're not jumping out with your best matchup there.
But some of the big ones here, you've got Schalke taking on Vitality, G2 and Splice, and the big one of the week for sure is Fnatic and Misfits. But starting with that Schalke Vitality matchup, I mean, you've got two guys who are front runners for Rookie of the Split coming into this year in Mini True Packs, and Upset going in there. Last week was Upset's first week in the LCS, and he looked like he still wasn't feeling 100%. I mean, health-wise.
Right.
After the games, he looked sick still. Or I don't know exactly.
He looked pretty pale.
Yeah, well, he always looked pretty pale, but I don't know exactly what he was dealing with, but let's see still how good Vitality is. They did get kind of manhandled by Misfits. But I mean, obviously, Jizuki has had a fantastic start to his LCS career.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see now. No more rise for Jizuki. Most likely not going to see that champion, but I'm sure he's got more than enough skills left in his bag to take out the rest of the European competition. I am really excited to see how he can perform throughout the rest of the split and if he can continue on this torrid pace to start it out.
Yeah, and Schalke, again, with the lineup changes, it's kind of unfair to fully judge what this team's capable of going forward. But I think, I mean, this is a team that I thought could maybe be top 3. A lot of people had a lot of hype for. So coming into this week, it'll be interesting to see how they can perform against a top team so far in Vitality. And I think Schalke has it to win that one.
Absolutely, and then hey, this is a match to watch if you care about the European LCS, because this is absolutely a matchup between two teams that will be contending for these playoff spots, possibly even to go to the finals. So this is definitely one that I would want to keep an eye on. And as you said before, that matchup in the bot lane is definitely going to be a spicy one to look at. Two very talented rookies with Mini Truepack and Upset in there. Really looking forward to that matchup.
Yeah, and obviously, it's supposed to be the year of Nuke Duck with all these mid laners leaving, going up against
Can't
Jizuki.
forget about Nuke Duck.
If he gets completely dumpstered by the Italian Stallion, maybe next year, Nuke Duck. But I think that'll be a pretty interesting matchup too. G2 and Splice, two teams that have a lot of question marks right now. Otawamne has looked terrible.
He has looked like so bad compared to what you would have ever expected from him. Even just expecting, you know, average performance from this guy. And they are just not getting it from him. And that definitely needs to change if they're going to turn around their fortunes.
Yeah, and for G2, I mean, Perks has looked pretty good. He's looked like one of the better mid laners in the EU LCS. But I mean, outside of that, Hjarnan has looked lost, out of position a lot of times. And Jankos has been irrelevant, invisible a lot of the time.
Right, Jankos has not had the impact that you or I or anyone would have really expected or hoped to have seen from him when he was announced as the jungler for G2. And you're looking at, you know, Wonder in the top lane, you're not getting absolutely any standout performances from him. He's not necessarily hurting you either. But I think that's something where you're really looking at this team with G2 is that, yeah, you know, Perks can be the carry most of the time here for us. But at some point, we need to find secondary, third options to get these wins, because that's what we had for all these years prior when we had the dominant bot lane and everything else. You just need to find these other ways to actually get to victories and get your accomplishments done. And because if you only have one way to do it, it's quite easy for the other teams to stomp that win condition out. So I think we're seeing that with G2 and some of the struggles that they've had early. And maybe if, you know, maybe this roster gels together a little bit better and gets on the same page and maybe see a little bit more of a impact from Jankos in the jungle, then we'll see a return to a successful G2.
Just bring up the Nunu. That's an easy way to have impact on the game. Just smite steal.
That one, though, I think that one, the full blame goes to your opponents then for not banning out Nunu at that point.
Yeah, I think Wonder's actually been the second best player on G2 early on in the split. Wadid has missed a lot of skill shots. He played that Thresh game, and he was not making any hooks, which is something we're accustomed to seeing from him. Usually one of the more skill shot accurate support players in EU. So it's kind of odd considering they already have that inherent synergy in that bottom lane too, him and Hjarnan from Roccat last split. But I think G2 will get back, at least start to get back on track. I think they'll take that game against Splice. Splice, a team that, again, had a decent amount of hype and has looked very suspect in the first couple of weeks. Yes, they beat Schalke. Kabe got a Penta kill. He output some insane damage in that game. But yeah, we talked about Otawamne not looking that great. Xerxes has been a little bit hit or miss so far. And Niski, in my opinion, has maybe been the second worst mid laner so far in EU.
He has not been a pickup that's really worked out, unfortunately.
He looked great in NA.
I thought, that's what I thought, absolutely. You know, this was a guy that was going toe-to-toe with Bjergsen and Jensen and actually coming out on top sometimes in those matchups. So definitely was someone that we were expecting a lot from when he was going to be on Splice and thinking that this could be, you know, another player that they can use as a carry to impact their performances. But it just hasn't worked out for them so far. We're not seeing enough from this roster, given the talent that we know is there. They need to find a way to step up and perform better, because this is a team that should find themselves up towards the top spots in Europe and is not there right now.
And then the marquee, probably most excitable matchup in EU this week is going to be Misfits taking on Fnatic. Right now, Misfits look like the best team in EU after taking down Vitality. Again, they lost an inhib in 18 minutes. Before 20 minutes against Vitality, they turn it around, Maxlor gets a Baron steal, and then the game's over. Like 5 minutes after they get that Baron steal. So Misfits are looking like the strongest team in EU. Fnatic, they just beat G2 in possibly the ugliest game of the split.
I was going to say that, like, this is our match to watch up this week for EU, and it's like, I hope it's going to be better than the one that we had last week, because we were excited to watch G2 and Fnatic, and it was maybe one of the worst games of the week.
The Battle of the Kings!
Yeah, so hopefully this one turns out better. I'm expecting better things in this matchup. I think Misfits is really at the top of their game in Europe right now. Maxlor is absolutely proving himself as one of the top tier junglers in that league, let alone in the Western region. So I think that that is certainly a matchup to watch. And if you're looking on the Fnatic side, they've talked about what success they want to find in this split, and they really want to find ways to get victories that aren't just from Reckless carrying them. They said that we've been a team for so long where it's Reckless, Reckless, Reckless. We need to have games where guys like Caps and Broxa can step up and be the ones to get the victory and accomplish these win conditions for Fnatic. So I really want to see if this is the week that the rest of the Fnatic roster steps up and helps Reckless out.
Yeah, and even Reckless has...
Or even Reckless hasn't
well
been himself.
below his standard that he set last year and for most of his career. But for Misfits, yeah, they look great. But a guy, for me, in the mid lane, Senkux, he hasn't had to do much. I feel like he hasn't done that much. He's been a little bit underwhelming so far in that mid lane. Again, he hasn't lost them any of these games by any means. But, I was expecting a little more from him, but still plenty of time. And there's been a lot worse performers than him.
Right, if you're going to nitpick, I think you would like to see a little bit more from him in the way that you feel like he can impact this composition of a roster. But I think on the bright side, if you're Misfits, Hans Sama has looked just as good as he's ever looked before.
Looked great.
And he's absolutely right up there at the top of the list as far as CS per minute, so he's really playing at the top of his mechanical game. Good things to see for Misfits Gaming.
With Sven gone and Reckless playing a little below his standard, Hans Sama might be the best AD in EU.
Could step up and be the EU superstar in the bot lane.
Let's jump to these NA matchups heading into week 3. You had a plethora of them the first couple of weeks. Not as hype, again, heading into week 3.
This is a bit of a down week for NA, not the premier matchups, but some pretty good ones here.
Some pretty good ones. CLG, Echo Fox. Is CLG actually a terrible team? We're going to find out when they're up against Echo Fox. Can TSM finally get back to winning games consistently against 100 Thieves? That's a tough test. And I want to see what team Clutch Gaming actually is. Are they either Fabivin 1v9ing them to a stomp or getting absolutely crushed? So we'll see how they match up against Cloud9. But that CLG Echo Fox game, that could get ugly.
That one's going to be really important for CLG.
Could be ugly.
Because if you get stomped by Echo Fox here, I think that really solidifies Echo Fox in their own minds. CLG is a storied franchise, obviously, in the LCS, and to be ahead of them, firmly with a victory for them if they can get it, would be a great feather in their cap, and even more so that they've already accumulated this split, and moving forward with that type of confidence would be great for them. And then on the CLG side, you do need to start picking up wins. Just flat out, doesn't matter against
who. Or at least looking like you could win the game.
Right, you do need to have these better performances at the very least, let alone picking up these wins. And Echo Fox would certainly be a team that would gather quite a lot of attention if you were able to best them, although from the way that it's been looking so far with CLG's play, I don't think that we'll be seeing that.
Yeah, and Echo Fox is going to lose a game eventually. I don't see them going 18-0. I want to say, maybe CLG, they should actually be a good team and maybe take one off Echo Fox. But I haven't seen anything in these first 4 games to make me feel like CLG can win this game.
Right, my biggest concern is that, when you're looking at what's going wrong for CLG, right now the bot lane is nowhere near as strong as it needs to be. Stixxay and Biofrost are both looking like players that are severely missing their more established partners that they've been playing their start of their careers with. And it's really hurt this team. And now when you're bringing in a matchup against Echo Fox, it's not that, Adrian is some amazing bot lane down there, but when you're talking about them, they're incredibly solid. They have not been outperformed or smashed by any other team so far, and I don't think that that's going to change with obviously the CLG bot lane coming in, and so it's going to be a very stiff test for Counterlogic Gaming going up against Echo Fox.
Yeah, and especially, Reignover's a guy who has gotten way too aggressive in a lot of these games, gotten caught out and cost CLG pretty severely. Dardoch's a guy who's been playing out of his mind the last couple of weeks, and when he's got two aggressive winning solo laners in Huni and Phoenix, he's just had a field day.
Oh yeah, and it's absolutely going to be a matchup to watch because I'm excited to see what the difference is going to be. COG is definitely a team that we've talked about, has the mechanical skills, all sorts of things, but one thing that is most likely missing, that we have seen is missing, is this ability to make plays decisively, to make these calls of what you should be doing when, and to make it with the full, with your full effort into it. Now, what you are seeing though from Echo Fox is that exact thing. They mentioned it when talking about their victory against TSM, and what TSM was also doing wrong is you see these things and you listen to the calls, you know, Mithy's asking, oh, we got these 2 kills, should we do Baron now? Whereas on the other side, you're listening to the Echo Fox calls and they are very decisive, they're commands almost on what they need to be doing at every single moment of team fights or preparations for them, and that is something that we're seeing has exploded them to the top of the rankings.
Yeah, and they've shown that they can play through pretty much any lane. Any lane can get ahead, and they can kind of carry that advantage into a victory, which is
not just the Huni show.
It's not just the Huni show. Last week he got camped pretty hard in a couple of games. Oh, yeah. Didn't really have a chance to play the game, as Darius used to say. I just want to play League of Legends. Huni didn't get to, but the rest of the team did. So,
boy, did they ever.
Showing some serious diversity early on. Maybe the most intriguing match of the week for me is that TSM versus 100 Thieves. Obviously, 100 Thieves knocked off Liquid in week 1. Then they got pretty easily handled by Cloud9. But this will be a tough test for TSM to see. People are still expecting them. I'm still expecting them to be a top team. And to be a top team, you're going to have to beat some other good teams like 100 Thieves.
Absolutely. And when you're looking at TSM coming into this week, they play the first match they play this week is against the Golden Guardians. One would have to assume that that's a victory for TSM.
Ring the alarm bells if they lose that one.
Right. But if they win that one, and that leaves them with 1 win to get back to 500. Once again, can they do it this time? I don't think so. I think 100 Thieves will best TSM. Even with TSM, I am assuming making more improvements and finding better synergy and communication with their roster. I think that 100 Thieves will have the advantage heading into this one just based off how they've been playing. If you looked at TSM, one of their biggest weaknesses, even seeing some signs of life from them, has been absolutely their macro play. It has been completely sloppy and unorganized and not been a strength for them, which is what you need to and what you usually see from a roster as veteran as TSM. And now when you look at 100 Thieves and you talk about exactly what they're able to do, probably their head coach has talked about this, saying that this is not a team, we have too many issues with their veteran players that are going to be able to absolutely crush in team fights. That's not our strength. Right now, our strength is absolutely in our domination of the macro elements of this game. And that is why I think 100 Thieves will beat TSM. They're going to out-macro them, and they will smash them on the map.
Yeah, and I think it's not going to be a flip-the-switch turnaround for TSM. You saw progress last week. They went 1-1, and I mean, they played for like 3 hours in 2 games. But I think it'll be a close game between them and 100 Thieves. But yeah, I think they're just not quite there yet to beat some of these top 4 teams that
you mentioned how long TSM had played. Clutch Gaming finished both of their games combined last week were less time than TSM's matchup against Optic.
Yeah, Clutch either completely dumpsters them because Febivin gets insanely fed, or they look like a team who shouldn't be in the LCS.
Right, so TSM definitely still a lot of things that need to be fixed with their gameplay, not the roster. I think the roster is very solid. Yeah. But this is some improvements that we're going to have to see from them, and this is going to be, aside from Golden Guardians, a tough test for them. I think 100 Thieves will really give them a good measuring stick of, you know, are you up there? Because 100 Thieves is definitely someone who I consider a contender in the NALCS, and TSM right now I would assume would be a contender, but you got to prove it at some point here. So this would be a good victory if they can. But I'm picking 100 Thieves.
If they lose to Golden Guardians, TSM, they are going to be tilted off the face of the earth and have no chance in that 100 Thieves.
That is one of the things that's, you know, working against these TSM players. And you talk about, you know, Sven and Mithy being on G2,
so much pressure on them.
And Mike Young. There's so much pressure on them to perform. But not only that, like, you know, Sven and Mithy have had a lot of pressure being on G2. That's no organization unfamiliar to that. But it's never at the level of TSM. When you're talking about, you know, Western League of Legends, there is no organization like TSM, and that fan base that they have, and how, you know, how much they expect and demand success. And as far as that goes, you haven't seen it with this roster, so these players are going to hear it. And, you know, on the flip side, if you're Mike Young, you might not have heard any type of criticism or as much criticism when you were on Phoenix 1. Even if you had a worse performance there in certain matchups, you wouldn't have felt it the same way the community does in these type of matches. So it's definitely on TSM to have a thick skin and keep focused on what they need to have in order to improve.
Yeah, the turnaround from the praise and hype that Mike Young got, fidget spinner galore when he was on P1 to when he came on a TSM. Even the first tournament that he played in, that All-Star event, he was getting roasted
All-Star event
for
when
that
it doesn't
one.
matter and you're getting roasted.
Before he's played a game on TSM. It's just like having a massive cloud over you when you're playing on TSM. And when you're winning, the cloud separates and there's sunshine and birds singing, but when you're losing, it's pouring rain and you're getting struck by lightning.
Yeah, you're in paradise when you're winning. You're on the top NA franchise, League of Legends.
So many fans, everyone loves you.
Everyone loves you. You're losing. Everybody hates you.
Don't go
Not
on
only
the
the TSM fans, the rest of the League of Legends subreddit, and everybody's on your case. Tough life, but hey, someone's got to do it, right?
I would stay off social media if I was Mike Young going forward. Last matchup is that clutch squad that we were talking about going up against Cloud9. This bipolar team that is either Febiven does everything or we get completely smashed. I want to see, is this team actually good? Maybe do they have the potential to actually beat Cloud9? A guy like Lyra has struggled early on.
Yeah, Lyra has absolutely not been the performer that you need to have for Clutch Gaming, and I think that's why you find themselves in these matchups where they just get absolutely smashed, or they either smash the other team and win. Because when it happens for Clutch Gaming, they are getting the plays, they're getting the kills for Febiven, they're getting their carries ahead. But when they're losing, it's just not working in any of the lanes, and it's happening so fast that they don't have time to either stall out the game and find their own win conditions or whatever they need to get these back into the matchup. Now, for Clutch Gaming, I think that with Lyra, you will find an improved performance. This is someone who knows that he needs to be better for this team and is going to be counted upon more for this team. And you need to, especially with the meta that's coming in, have the jungler be a strong strength pillar for your team in order to stay competitive throughout the rest of the game. So I think that Lyra is going to be someone that will step up and help Clutch Gaming find a more consistent performance.
Yeah, and it's been surprising early on in this split that the second best player on Clutch has probably been Solo. The guy who had the most question marks.
I would not have expected that.
People were expecting him to not even be at an LCS level, but I mean,
he's looked pretty good.
Like Licorice, has played some carry champions. He's been putting out insane damage percentages for the squad. So this will be a big test this week. It's a tough week for Clutch.
Yeah, we were just watching that Penta kill again from Febiven on that Azir and shaking my head. It's just, I don't know what CLG was thinking. But anyways, Clutch Gaming will have a good week, I think, this week. I think this is definitely one where they're going to step up and show that, hey, we've got this skill. You've seen it in our victories. Those times that we've been stomped have been a bit of a mistake. We're going to correct that.
Well, we'll see if they're up to the task of taking on Cloud9, but I think they have the potential to take them down if Lyra gets back to some of his old form that we're used to seeing.
I'm excited for that Licorice and Solo matchup now. Going to be a really tough one to watch up.
Yeah, it's not exactly a hype top lane matchup they'd be expecting, but it actually is pretty hype.
But it's going to work out pretty good for us.
So we got to look to the bottom of the standings. We kind of been roasting Golden Guardians early on here in the show, but the main question is we got two teams without a win left in EU and NA, Unicorns of Love and Golden Guardians. Who is going to get that elusive first W first? First W first.
If we were just going off the skill of the roster and how they're playing, it's like Golden Guardians. That's gotta be Golden Guardians. You know, they have looked weak, but they haven't looked nearly as weak as the Unicorns of Love have looked in their own region. But when you look at the schedule for these teams,
oh my gosh,
it is just a nightmare for the Golden Guardians. I don't know where they're ever going to pick up a win in these ones. You know, best of ones, yes, you can do anything to get a win, but my God, these are some tough matches.
The next four for the Guardians: TSM, Team Liquid this week. And then you've got Echo Fox, 100 Thieves. That's brutal, man.
I don't care what you think of the Golden Guardians. You really cannot tell me, unless you have drastically different opinions on these other teams, that they're not going to be absolutely stomping the Golden Guardians. I have, you know, there is faith in this team and having some talent and things that they can do, and the shot calling of High, of course. But you're watching in these matchups that they have, it's like, well, who's your carry? Because Definitely is supposed to be it, but he's not really.
Contracts.
He's not really stepping up. And then it's Contracts, but Contracts is making a couple of key mental mistakes when you're the carry that you cannot be making. So it's just not working for the Golden Guardians so far. And unfortunately for them, I don't see it changing anytime soon with the matchups that they have.
It's hard to carry 3 losing lanes as a jungler. That's the old solo queue. Always bring the jungler.
I'm asking a lot
right?
here, yeah.
Their best chance is probably TSM.
Yeah.
First game of the week, this split, because I can't see them beating Liquid, Echo Fox, or 100 Thieves.
Jump on TSM while you can.
Yeah,
This
while
is
they're
your
still
chance.
figuring things out, that's your best chance to take them down. I think Unicorns actually have the better chance.
Now,
get
are you
their
saying
first
that?
win.
Are you saying that because you think they're talented, or because you think they
saying
might
it
have
purely
lucked
on schedule.
Might have lucked into a better schedule.
Listen, they play H2K first game of the day on Friday to start the week 3.
I still don't think they beat H2K, but I think that they have a better chance of beating H2K than Golden Guardians against TSM. But it's just like
H2K.
I don't want to make that pick.
H2K is the best matchup Unicorns could hope for.
It's the best they're going to get for a
Any
long
of the
time.
other 9 teams. And it has to be that win, because if it's not that, they're scooped. Their next 3, Vitality, Fnatic, G2, Goodnight, Unicorns, you're not probably winning any of those. So they got to beat H2K to open up week 3. And I think they could, as long as Exile stops
I don't
dying.
know. I don't know if you're going to see that, though, man.
Don't play Vladimir. Can't get a kill on that champion.
I cut this pack to get these vids here of the Unicorns that love playing, and every time I was cutting them, I'm slapping my forehead just going, what are you doing, man? You can't put yourself there. The times where he's got his ear and he's queuing in right into the middle of the team, and he's got no one to follow him up. Just pure disrespect, not working, not playing to the level that you need to be playing at all, even to be playing in the EU LCS, let alone getting wins for your team. The Unicorns of Love need Exile to step it up big time.
You know, surprisingly enough, the highest damage percentage for a jungler so far in EU is Cold on Unicorns.
Well, he has to.
Because he's playing champions like Kane, he's playing Rengar. He's saying, maybe I'll try and carry. Listen, I loved Cold. I loved him as trashy back on Splice. If he's the main carry of your team, you're in trouble. You're in serious trouble. It should be Samix. I mean, he put up MVP caliber numbers.
He's only picking up those damage numbers because he's having to camp mid lane while Exile's in the gray screen simulator zone, man. It is a rough life for the Unicorns of Love. Hopefully for them and their fans, they can get it back on the right track soon.
H2K is their chance
That's their time.
to get that first W, because after that, it is tough sledding for Unicorns. Imagine Unicorn sledding. It doesn't work well, man. Hooves are tough on toboggans. Does anyone else know what toboggans are? That's a Canadian thing, right? Toboggan's a sled.
Is it?
I think so.
Would you tie it onto the horn of the unicorn or just normal?
Toboggan?
Yeah, I don't know.
That
You're
sounds-
the one that brought up
that sounds-
tobogganing with unicorns.
That
I'm
sounds
asking-
painful, man.
I want the
Just gonna
specifics.
face plant the whole time. You just sit normally, tape them down, something like that. I don't know. That's it for the 0-4. We're gonna get to your questions in just a moment, so make sure you're sending us questions.
Send us unicorn questions.
Unicorn only questions. If you know what a toboggan is, let us know.
Yeah, let us
I'm
know.
pretty sure that's a Canadian thing.
If you are from elsewhere in the world, let us know if you know what a toboggan is.
Also, spell toboggan,
This
because
is-
I can't do that.
Next week's 5v5 show is going to be a 5v5 toboggan race.
Yep,
It's going to be great.
it's gonna be off the set. This is all a lie. Don't
No,
get excited
it's going to
for
be
that.
on set. It's
Oh,
going
I
to be
see.
in this room, tobogganing right into the cameras here.
Don't expect
It's a
toboggans.
short race.
Very short. We'll get to your question in a sec, but first we got another special teaser for the upcoming documentary Keep Streaming, which is dealing with Twitch personalities, what Twitch is, how it's grown so much, how it's helped grow esports, and it's coming out later next month, last day of January. It's coming out in mid-February, and it's a little clip here with Mop Garden, who is a full-time streamer, talking about how fans can sometimes get a little bit too close.
I have had some sketchy situations where people have tried to find my address. Some people will listen to like, hey, I was out at Starbucks today, and then they'll factor in like, okay, she said it takes about 5 minutes for her to walk to her Starbucks. If there's this Starbucks here, then maybe she can live here, and then they'll like go to where your P.O. box is and be like, well, these are the Starbuckses around that P.O. box, and they'll just try to figure it out through there, and it's insane. Because after people were like, hey, is this your address? I was just like, whoa, that's very uncomfortable and I feel very unsafe. So you always have to be very careful with everything you're saying.
Twitch is a beautiful and wonderful place, and also a terrifying place.
Yeah, it can bring you moments of where you're laughing so hard that you can't breathe, and other times where you're just looking at it and you're like, what is wrong with people on this planet? Why?
Yeah.
But it's definitely a special place, mostly for good. Mostly for good.
Mostly, but there are those questionable moments. That doc coming out again mid-February. It's called Keep Streaming, and you can check out some of the other teasers that have been put out on our YouTube channel. They got Disguised Toast, Rocky No Hands. There's tons of other big Twitch streamers that are going to be checking that stuff out. So make sure you're hopping in.
Yeah, I'm hopping in. I'm going to be watching that one. That could be, hey, say it's coming out mid-February. Maybe a Valentine's Day movie. You never know.
It's probably not a Valentine's Day movie.
Maybe if your partner is really into Twitch.
That's
really
true.
Into streaming. You never know.
That's true. All right, let's hop into these questions. Fed8677, Misfits Fnatic coming on Friday. Prediction. I guess we didn't give a legitimate prediction on that matchup. I think Misfits are still going to take that. They just look like the most confident, the most dominant. They actually know what's going on in EU. Fnatic, even when they beat G2, that was a fiesta, man.
Yeah, I've got Misfits winning this one, absolutely. They are at the top of their game compared to Fnatic, who's still struggling a little bit to find exactly their strength and how they want to be approaching victories so far this spring split. I think Misfits has got it all figured out, and I think they're going to ride the strength of their star jungler Maxilor to victory.
Yeah, absolutely. Mistreaver JC, with all the changes to the game this season, runes and all, why haven't we seen much change in innovation and strategies? Still seems like monkey see, monkey do. Not only that, a lot of the picks are still the same, which is unbelievable considering all the changes that went through in the preseason, and it's still like Ryze, Malzahar, Azir.
I think you see that mostly just from the actual kits of the champions and how they're built into, how pro play differs from, say, solo queue and stuff like that. I think maybe that's why. But yeah, I definitely was someone who, when they announced that they were changing runes and masteries and all these changes, expected to see quite a shakeup, and we haven't quite seen that yet. This is we're talking about 8.1, and we were not expecting to see Galio mid one week, and then the next week he's a contested pick into pick and ban again.
Yeah.
So things can happen pretty fast as far as these champions, but definitely I would say I'm fairly surprised that they've stayed mostly the same. I think there's a good reason for why the champion pool and things have stayed pretty similar, but pretty surprised that there weren't more changes from these runes.
I feel like a lot of teams have kind of played it safe these first couple of weeks of the season to kind of, because there's so many different teams, especially in the LCS, it's kind of gauge what your team can do and like get these wins while you can and kind of get that team synergy. And maybe as the season progresses, we'll see some more weird picks, like some Predator junglers maybe. I'm still waiting to see some of that.
We're just waiting to get Predator Nocturne up here when Levi one day soon enough gets into the LCS.
And Predator Fiddlesticks. Don't sleep on that.
Oh, Predator Fiddlesticks.
It's nasty, even though Fiddlesticks is a broken champion and not in the good way.
Do you remember the days of Middlesticks? Mid lane Fiddlesticks?
Classic. That was played this year.
Delete that game.
That was played this year. Gigabyte Marines played Fiddlesticks mid. Gigabyte Marines are the only team innovating. They played, what was it, Scion Ornn bot lane.
I was going to say, that's the team.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's what we need. You want to see the fresh picks? You don't need new runes. You just need to start watching Gigabyte Marines only. That's it.
That's true. They got some interesting stuff, even with Levi gone. Do you know what happened with Expect? I think it was rumored he was maybe going back to Korea. I don't know if he didn't find a team. Teams weren't interested in him. Maybe he wanted to take a break. I don't 100% know.
I'm not 100% aware of it either, so can't give you that answer that you're looking for on Expect.
I can tell you he's not on a team that I know of. Maybe he's on a...
Maybe he's solo queuing with Froggen. Who knows?
Maybe. That would be an odd pairing.
That really would be.
I don't know how that would happen.
That'd be a weird duo queue.
Can we talk about how overrated Ezreal is in competitive? I see these teams early pick / first pick him, and then the enemy team just picks a scaling AD carry. It is sad in the late game, 40, when these games go 50 minutes and it's Ezreal against Tristana.
It's absolutely one of those picks where it's a win condition. You either will win based off of the strength that Ezreal has in the early game. Ezreal's advantage over other AD carries in the early games is absolutely something that is very clear in this patch right now, and is something that the pros do try to utilize to get their teams these advantages in bottom lane, and then later on into the earlier team fighting stages of games to get these ahead and snowball and win. Now, you've seen that with TSM when you don't do that, when you don't hit that win condition of getting the Ezreal and the rest of your team ahead enough to close out, before that happens, well, then you run into problems on the other side where you had a 6-item Tristana that's built crit items, and that absolutely shreds the rest of your team as well. You know, one proc off the static Shiv is bringing Haunter down to half health as well. Tough life for TSM at that point. Ezreal is really one of those champions that personally I don't like to see teams pick, because I think it does put you on the clock a little bit too much.
Yeah, and especially when the meta in most regions is going north of 40 minutes pretty much every single game. So, I mean, with the nerf to Klepto, I think you're going to definitely see him fall out of favor on 8.2.
Yeah, and even when you're talking just even that strategy of things like that, you know, TSM has tried multiple ones, right? You know, trying to get the Kog'Maw to level 18 all the way to late game and make that our carry, and then they've tried the Ezreal as well, and it hasn't quite worked for them. So I don't think, you know, if this is maybe the angle that you were going for, where Ezreal could be blamed for TSM's faults, I don't think their priority there is necessarily the issue, because there are other problems.
Absolutely. I think there should be more Kog'Maw. That's a pretty broken
Kog'Maw's
champion.
pretty strong right now for sure too.
Even early on in the game, he's strong. Tranquilized, thoughts on how Licorice has been performing after so much preseason criticism? Great. He looks great.
Absolutely. This was a guy, again, I said would be rookie of the split. But I said he wouldn't be the carry for Cloud9. Did not expect that. And he has actually been probably the most consistent carry for Cloud9 to start the split out. This is a guy who I really think has exceeded expectations for him, and is proving to be quite a nice gem for Cloud9 to have found in the top lane.
Yeah, and we've talked about his communication. He's one of the leading voices in that squad, along with Smoothie, which is rare to see out of a guy with his first LCS experience, especially on a team surrounded by veterans. So he's had a fantastic start to his LCS
guy that's
career.
Straight up, Reaper, the head coach, has said, hey, we're going to put you on carries. You better be comfortable with that. And he's answered the call right up to it and done phenomenal so far.
He looks cozy, comfy. The mid laner for Vitality, that dude is a monster, and he's a rookie. How does EU keep replacing and upgrading all these people? They don't import Korean players really at all.
It's probably one of the things that I think really does have, people do have to give credit to the European region for, is after, you know, off season after off season, you lose your top guys. This time you lost your best bot lane and multiple other stars as well, yet you found ways to replace them, not only with your homegrown talent, but talent that is up to the level and up to the snuff of being the stars in the LCS. Really incredible things, and I think that's just, you know, a high player count in Europe as well, and that, hey, you just got to give them credit. These guys have skill, and they've worked for it, and they've shown it off, and they've got the opportunity to do it, and a guy like Jizuki is not letting it go to waste.
Yeah, and he's a guy who, like a lot of these other guys, he's not even a 17-year-old kid coming up. He's still a 21, 22-year-old guy who's been around for a little while now, and now he's just really able to showcase his talents. People weren't even talking about him for Rookie of the Split. I wasn't. But now you are. Now I am.
We both were talking about 80 carries. None of us thought that, hey, it's going to be the mid lane to look at. No, Jizuki is changing minds. He is doing phenomenal to start. Love it.
Absolutely. This is a very important one. The Shrimper. A toboggan is a slide. I don't believe that for a minute.
Slide?
That is a lie.
No.
Toboggan is a sled.
No.
Toboggan's not a sled.
Don't think so.
I don't believe it. Rookie of the Split, EU or NA. I mean, we just talked about the two front runners right now.
Hey, man. Yeah.
It's got to be Licorice and Jizuki as your front runners right now. So,
yeah, you can maybe say that you want to talk about other players, but absolutely the front runners have to be those two guys. I mean, the numbers back it up. Their performances back it up. Go look at the VODs.
Their teams are both 3-1.
Absolutely. Licorice and Jizuki, those are my guys.
I will say Onda's looked pretty good on FlyQuest.
Onda on Zach has looked very good.
Yes.
Anything else, I'm not quite convinced.
Definitely hasn't looked great. It's okay. No one picked him to be Rookie of the Split. Oh, wait. Connor Smeb for Best Top. I don't think he can go against Khan right now.
You can't.
He's an animal.
You just can't. And I'm someone who does think it's a treat to watch Smeb and loves to see the KT roster go at it. But hey, Khan, you cannot say enough about this guy. Absolutely crushes in every single matchup he's played so far. And when you look at his impact on the team, it cannot be denied. This was a roster, Kingzone Dragon X, that lost their very first match against KSV 0-2. And then ever since then, Khan's been back. Hey, 8-0. These guys are clean with Khan in the top lane. He's the best top laner in the world right now.
Yeah, he's terrifying to go up against, especially when there's so many top lane carries to be played. Even Riven, no one's playing Riven. You could probably pick pretty much any champion and style.
That's how you know he's actually just having fun now. He's like, oh, I want to play what I'm playing in solo queue. I want to take Spellbook Riven, take the Ignite for level 6. The guy's insane. Khan absolutely is the best.
That's the equivalent of the old Red Pot start. The level 2 all-in with Red Pot, which was also gross. Who do you think would be a good replacement for Mike Young if he doesn't fit into TSM? They could potentially trade for someone. Give him time, man. They're not trading Mike Young.
This is way too early.
I mean, it's only 4 weeks in. This guy has played less than a year competitively. He's fitting in with 4 veteran guys. He's got to find his place. He's got to figure out what the meta is. So there's no one right now.
TSM is definitely going to take their time with Mike Young. This is someone they know is the more inexperienced member of this roster that they're going to be working with, and is someone who is a very cerebral player. He's very intelligent when it comes to the game and what he can do, and I think the struggles that you're actually seeing with him is partly to miscommunication, but also in the fact that he had a lot of freedom on Phoenix 1. He came in and they just said, hey, do what you can do, style on them out there. And he did that, and he had all the resources that he needed. He was able to make calls for the teams, things like that. Now on TSM, there's a lot more structure. A lot more things are different where, he might not have had this say on Phoenix 1, but now he might have it where he has, hey, at minute 7, you need to be in the top side no matter what and be prepared for a possible gank. These type of things and situations and rules on him that might not have been in place in Phoenix 1. And these are things that can limit someone's ability to find the maximum from their potential. And I think that's what you might be seeing with Mike Young. And I don't think that TSM is going to sell him short and cut him early. If there was someone that TSM wanted to replace Mike Young with, I like Dardoch. Dardoch has been a guy that I've always thought would fit well with TSM's strict structure as far as keeping the whip on him, keeping him in shape and following rules. I thought Dardoch could have been a good pick, but I still like Mike Young there, and I think TSM is not closing the door on the Mike Young experiment anytime soon. Yeah,
the only way, if they did do a huge trade, that's something we haven't really seen in
Not
League of Legends. Even that Xmithie Dardoch wasn't actually a trade. Both teams just kind of agreed to release their respective junglers.
And get a pipe dream for some people I've seen on some Reddit forums and whatnot out there of Levi coming to TSM. Out of your minds. I would have loved a Levi on TSM.
That's 3 imports.
You don't have the import slots, and you're not going to get rid of the Sven and Mithy experiment just to bring in another Levi experiment for you.
It's a year-long process, this TSM roster. So
I know it's tough because you're used to so much success, TSM fans, but just ride it out a little bit. Ride it out, and then a week or two after you've had a TSM Legends episode, then you can get mad. Then you can get upset.
Michael Lohr, how good is Teddy? He's really good.
Teddy's really good, man.
He's probably the best AD on the planet.
Was someone who last week I made the thing of saying that, look, I think Faker is the best player on the planet, but right now the best performing player is Teddy. And I might be changing that to Khan this week given his performance. But hey, Teddy is, if you want to say the best AD carry, there is no argument there for sure. Teddy has been performing fantastic right now. CS per minute through the roof.
It's over 12. Oh, no, it's not over 12. It's right under 12.
Helps when you've had kind of a 90-minute game to just, farm
1400 CS really changes that stuff.
But other than that, Teddy has really proven it. I'm going to be interested to see how he performs on 8.2 when there's more poke, more damage in the bot lane. Need to be a little bit more careful, and I think he's someone that we have seen really benefit from the added overheal and shield that you get right now. But I think he's right now putting his name right up there for top 80 carries in the world.
Remember, take his advice when playing Vayne. Just tumble forward. They don't expect you to dodge that way. Just tumble forward.
Now I'm 0-10. Thanks, Ted.
What will happen if Kingzone joined the NALCS? I'll tell you right now, they would win easily. That's it.
It wouldn't be funny.
They might lose a game.
There.
They might lose best of ones. They'd lose a couple games.
Really?
Yeah. Khan was suspended the first week.
Okay, well, if you can have, if Dardoch can become, if Tyler 1 can reform, I've got faith in Khan reforming and coming to NA and just smashing. No, it won't happen.
Tyler 1 coming to the LCS next month.
But yeah, Kingzone would have a field day with almost any of these NA LCS rosters quite comfortably.
Braum is here. Who's in a better spot, TSM or G2, last year's champions in their respective splits?
I think G2 is in a better spot right now just because of what the environment is in the European LCS. I still think that there are top teams like a Misfits Gaming. I think Vitality is quickly proving to be someone that we can really count on as being a contender with Jizuki and Mini Trupax. But I think that when you talk about Europe as a region as a whole, that G2 still has quite a chance to climb up the rankings, climb up the ladder, get themselves into a comfortable spot before playoffs start, and then really make their time to shine there.
Yeah, I think there's really just more question marks in EU at the top of those standings. You got teams like Giants, Roccat, even Vitality to some degree. You're like, is that really a legitimate top team in EU? Probably not. I mean, you got some teams around 2-2 like Fnatic and Schalke that maybe people are expecting to be better. Whereas in NA, you've got Echo Fox, which arguably is a question mark still, even though they've had an insane start. But teams like Liquid, Cloud9, I think even 100 Thieves, those teams are probably going to be staying there. So TSM has the harder road ahead.
And even a team like Clutch Gaming, right? You know, someone that we're looking to see more consistency from. But best of ones, they could dumpster you with a 22-minute game from Febiven. You never know. This is still a type of thing where I think TSM does have the talent to climb up the ladder, but I think that they're going to face a more consistently stiffer competition than, say, you're going to have to climb as G2.
I still think all you need if you're TSM is to get into the playoffs, and in best of series, that's going to be a totally different looking roster. Do you think TSM would have been better off using their import slots in top/jungle, potentially picking up Huni and Jankos? Haunter's great. Haunter's a top 3, top laner, top 4.
Haunter is somebody that when you go to an international tournament, you're not losing a step at that position in the top lane. So I wouldn't really see, I mean, unless you're going to get Khan, right? I don't see any real reason to replace Haunter in the top lane. And then you bring in the possibility of Jankos as your import jungler.
Hasn't looked great on G2.
Has not really worked out on G2, and especially has not worked out on G2 in the way that you would have, expected him to work out. And the way that you expected him to work out is what you would have hoped to have seen if you were to place him on TSM. So that really would not be the right move right now. I don't think that TSM would have been better off using their import spots there. Imports are very strange when you have a team like TSM who has the benefit of having Bjergsen grandfathered in as an NA resident, where you don't have to use it on your mid lane spot, where most teams usually will do that. So I think that this is an interesting time for TSM to be experimenting with the dual import bot lane, and I'm thinking, hey, just got to ride it out.
Absolutely. Can this version of Echo Fox sustain their hot start that the previous versions haven't?
I think they can. I think that this is, again, we still want to see how they rebound from,
from a loss,
a depressing loss and things like that.
So just go 18-0.
Yeah, but I think that this is a roster that is definitely improved from the ones that would have collapsed. This is a team that, again, as we mentioned earlier, is incredibly decisive with their decision-making when they have advantages or even when they're behind. Specifically when they're behind, they're very decisive on when they need to make proactive plays and who they need to be making these plays on. And that was a large part of the reason why they were able to use their comp's strength to come back into their matchup against TSM and find a win in a game that they really should not have won in the first place. So I think that that's one reason there. And then again, it's not just the Huni show. It's not just one carry. You can find ways to win on this roster from other players. Phoenix can find ways to land all the trouble bubbles on Zoe. You can have this bot lane that is so incredibly stable that they're not losing out to anybody, which allows you obviously to then excel in the other and focus and spend more resources on the other lanes in the game. So I think that you will not see Echo Fox falling down anytime soon.
Yeah, and only through 4 games, they've already showed great diversity. We talked about different guys being able to carry, but even just the win conditions they've had within games. First week, they were dumpstering everybody in under 30 minutes. Second week, they were falling behind early, coming back against TSM. 10K, yeah, you can call it a throw by TSM, but the only team you see consistently coming back from 10K was SKT during their prime years. So, I mean, when you're able to come from behind and not have that early lead, and also you're shown you're able to snowball that early lead, this team can do it all
Yeah,
through four games.
And we've talked about, it's not just the Huni show, right? This is a guy who has one player of the game since coming back to North America. You know who has more on Echo Fox? Dardoch. Dardoch's got the 2.
He's been popping off.
He's not just the carry Huni, so that's why, amongst the other reasons why we really feel strongly about Echo Fox, even just 4 games into the split.
Okay, a couple more here we'll get to. What should 100 Thieves do with Levi? If they want to go use him, they'll have to free up an import slot and go after some NA talent. Yeah, I like the move that they brought him onto the Academy squad. Are they going to bring him to the LCS squad come summer? I think that depends heavily on how Meteos performs throughout the split. And yeah, what domestic mid lane talent you've got to assume is available, because I can't see them getting rid of someday.
Yeah, because I think that when you talk about 100 Thieves, it's fairly set in stone right now that Ryu and Meteos are a pair. When Ryu was brought onto the team by Prolly as his first player, he asked him, who do you want to bring on the team? And he said, I want Meteos. Meteos was a guy that they really gelled well together and found a good partnership and friendship during their time on Phoenix 1 last year. So it's something that they brought over here to 100 Thieves and has really worked out for them. So I don't think that you're going to see any changes unless it's going to be a two for two, pretty much. You're going to have to get rid of the mid lane as well and figure something out. And I think at the very earliest that you would ever see that is the start of the summer split, possibly even later.
Yeah, and unless someone's getting rid of a pole belter or a high, I don't know who they're replacing Ryu with.
And do I think that Levi, does that mean that I think that Levi can't come in and be an absolute monster? No. I think he actually will come in and be a monster when it's time.
I could see them shelling him off and making some...
That's also
some paid by Steve money somewhere else. Two more. Can Phoenix return to his 2015 form or even better? I thought he'd be a bottom 3 mid laner this split, but the first couple weeks, he's been an upper half, top 4 mid laner, and last week in particular, he had the most kills, 10.5 KDA. He looked great. So yeah, I think he could get back to close to his 2015 split. I'm hesitant to say that for sure because, again, 4 games is a pretty small sample size.
Yeah, and this is someone also that we were, mostly just confident on his Azir performances.
He's played 4 different champions already.
He's definitely changed that up, and seeing Azir in 8.2 will most likely be on the top of the ban list. He probably won't be getting that champion, but I still think that there's enough performance that we've seen from Phoenix so far to think that, yeah, he's getting close to finding his old self again.
All right, the very last question is a very important one. How many more Rick Fox sightings will we have throughout the year? I hope 100, 200. It is wonderful to see him at the end of these games.
Is it too much to ask for 1 billion Rick Fox sightings?
No.
I don't think so.
It's perfectly adequate.
Realistically, I think almost every game he has been the last 2 years.
He's in the crowd.
Last 2 years, he's almost been at every single Echo Fox game. And hey, that's Echo Fox finishing like no better than 8th or 10th place pretty much. So now that they're top of the rankings, he's loving it. No reason I wouldn't think that Rick Fox would be there. Even better, I would recommend keeping an eye on Rick Fox's Twitter and Twitch accounts because he plays League of Legends and he will play with you.
He's learning the game slowly.
Yeah, hold on. You're not queuing up with like a platinum player to play with Rick Fox. Make that clear. But it's Rick Fox. It's worth it, guys.
Whenever you're doing things in your life, you should ask yourself, what would Rick Fox do? And what would Rick Fox do? He would go to dxracer.com and check out some of these chairs, because if you use the promo code SHOTCALLERS, you get 15% off, and Rick Fox loves the number 15.
I know that. That's definitely true. And have you not seen, did you see that power that he had on those high fives, Dardoch and everyone else in the Echo Fox
You're going to give them blisters, welts, man.
That power is completely unlocked by having good posture, which is unlocked by a DX Racer chair.
That's right. That's just a fact. That's science. That's what we're all about here at Chalk Colors Esports, is science and League of Legends. Thank you very much for sending in all your questions today. I'm sorry if we didn't get to yours, but we do only have an hour for this show, so we do apologize. But keep sending them in. We'll be back on Monday at 3 p.m. for some Get Boosted action. We'll update our NA and EU power rankings, as well as go over some of the games from the weekend. But that is going to do it for today. Eric Kummel here with Mark Horner on this final day of January. So we will be seeing you guys in February. Enjoy the LCS games this weekend.